time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Chad Erickson, for that wonderful introduction. Good to have you all with us on this Tuesday edition of the program. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBC Sports drops by. It's a good day for that. If you're in Denver watching the show, may not want to watch today.
No.
Oh, no, watch. If you're a glutton for punishment, watch. Why not? We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. We will be heavy on basketball today. Some leftovers from the weekend on the WNBA too that I want to get to as their preseason has kicked off. Some baseball to finish up the show and odds and ends as well, and a little love for Sam's Washington Nationals, who are a 500 baseball team. Speaking of Sam, there he is, Sammy Arnell, my trusty sidekick, hanging out with me on the program today, as he is wont to do. Look, I texted this to Kurt last night, and I put it up on X while I was bowling and watching the basketball game simultaneously, because Monday is league night, of course. Stick a fork in him, Jerry. The Nuggets are done. I mean, I look. Could they come back down 2-0 against a team in the playoffs? Yes. Do I think they can come back down 2-0 against this team in the playoffs? No. This thing's over.
So I won't go as far as you will, Jason, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's over on the Sports Wrap. But I will say that we were exactly right when we broke this series down before it started. The fact of the matter is that Minnesota Timberwolves defense is having its way with the Denver Nuggets offense, and now we've seen it in 2 games. After game 1, you thought there was a chance maybe the Nuggets didn't come out hot or the Timberwolves were really just having one of their on nights defensively. No. This Timberwolves defense is for real, and my gosh, when you're holding Nikola Jokic to 16 points and just 8 assists, I mean, there needs to be something said about this Minnesota Timberwolves defense. It made me think of an interesting question that I wanted to ask you last night, but I decided I'd wait till we were on the show today. Now, in that Cavs Magic series, we obviously saw incredibly low totals from a betting standpoint and a ton of defense. If we got to the finals where the Cavaliers and the Timberwolves are the 2 teams playing for the Larry O'Brien, what are you setting the total at in game 1?
207.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd probably go 207.
I think I'd go like 202.
Yeah, I'd probably go 207. You know what's interesting to me in watching these playoffs? First of all, can we stop with every trip down the floor there is a star player whining about a non-call? Every trip down the floor in an NBA playoff game right now is a player whining. Give them one. If I were the officials, I'd give them 1 tech, and that ends it, because then they know if they do it again, they could get a second tech. They're going to get ejected. Just make an example. If guys are going to whine endlessly about the officiating, which, by the way, here's the consistency in the officiating in the postseason. The consistency is they're not calling anything. Get over it. Some teams have adjusted to it, and some teams have not. I mean, the fact of the matter is some teams are better built for that, and some teams are not. You know, if you've got an older, aging team, guys constantly getting battered, they're not enjoying that. But my God, I mean, the endless whining about the officiating, I get it. They're not calling anything. And that is the consistency of this postseason, is the fact they're not calling anything. Now, to move away from the T-Wolves for just a second, which, by the way, you can get you can get this series ending in 5, which would be T-Wolves. You can get this series ending in 5 games at plus 500 right now. I like that number. I love that number. You don't think this thing's ending in 5? Have you watched the first 2 games?
Yes, I have. I don't think this series is ending in 5
I think
games.
It's ending in 5. I think five or less, because you may not even have Jamal Murray for game 3 after he threw a heat pack onto the floor like a dum-dum during this game 2 loss. They may absolutely suspend him for game 3.
No,
yes.
You think about, well, Jason, I hear your point, but think about this. The last time that we've seen a player get suspended in
Curry?
The playoffs for something that happened on the court. No, it was Draymond.
Oh, I thought you were going to say for throwing. No, but Steph Curry throwing the mouthpiece.
He threw the mouth guard.
That's what I was thinking.
But you had Draymond, whoever, what did he do? He stepped on.
He stepped on Domantas Sabonis.
In the playoffs.
He did the foot stomp.
A couple of years ago, and he got suspended. But I'm saying, I think when you're talking about a player of that magnitude, that importance to that pedigree of team, it's hard for me to say that the NBA will sit there and justify actually taking him off the court. I could see the heaviest fine imaginable, 100%.
I would not be shocked. I'm just saying, I would not be shocked if the NBA decided to suspend him for a game. Knicks, by the way, win. I know there's a lot of whining about the screen that was set late in this game and whether or not it should have been called. And again, for as physical as they're allowing the play to be in this postseason, how you call an offensive foul on an illegal screen when you got guys getting wiped out left and right in these playoff games, whether it's driving into the paint and, getting Rick Mahorned or, what we're seeing here in these postseason games, it's kind of baffling. The Knicks were on the receiving end of some very good calls, and I suspect when the 2-minute report comes out on Tuesday, we're probably going to see something that says something to the effect of bad call, went the Knicks' way, yada, yada, yada. Just putting that out there.
You're right, but the Knicks deserve to win this game. I'm glad they did. And if you watched or listened to the sports wrap yesterday, you heard me say that the Knicks were going to win this game, because the more
Jalen Brunson
I watch,
is him, man.
Sure.
He's the first player
Tyrese
ever.
Maxey will be better than him by the time his career's over.
He's the first player ever to do what he's just done.
I think that what was impressive to me about Jalen Brunson last night is his points prop coming into the game was 34.5.
Yeah.
That was his prop that the books were hanging. You could bet the under on that. And you were a fool if you did. The Knicks are very good. The more I watch this Pacers team, I lose belief in them every second I watch them play.
You know what the crazy thing is? I actually think they're better than the Knicks. I think on the roster, I think they're better than the Knicks. But the Knicks got something going right now that tells me they're going a deep way in this postseason. We're coming back.
Over 13 million Americans were affected by identity theft in 2022, and the threats go way beyond just credit card fraud. Today's identity thieves can use your information in ways that are easy to miss by just monitoring accounts and credit, like opening loans, transferring home titles, even committing crimes.
Someone got my social security number, made a driver's license, and it was used for criminal activity.
You can do so much with a social security number that I didn't know could happen. They drained my bank account. It was terrifying.
You're even more vulnerable than you realize. Your information is exposed through online shopping, banking, even corporate data breaches. No wonder there's a new victim of identity theft every 3 seconds. Only LifeLock alerts you to the widest volume of threats all in one place, like someone trying to use your social security number, open a new loan in your name, or even commit a crime in your name.
There was a big yes button and there was a big no button. I clicked, "That's not me," and LifeLock took it from there.
If you become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will be assigned to your case and work to fix the issue on your behalf.
If something happens, you have somebody fighting for you.
All LifeLock members are backed by the LifeLock $1 Million Protection Package, including reimbursement for stolen funds, personal expenses, and coverage for lawyers and experts up to $1 million. It can be dangerously easy to steal your identity. With LifeLock, it's easy to help protect yourself.
I will be with LifeLock forever.
Join the millions of people already protected by LifeLock. And for a limited time, save 25% on your first year with promo code 25TV. All plans include a 60-day money-back guarantee.
Call 800-710-7531.
Or visit lifelock.com/25TV to save 25% on your first year of identity theft protection. Enroll now.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
All right, let's take things to the next level. I don't know where that is, but Kurt Helin will be part of it. Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. You can check him out there. Sporting his John Wooden basketball camp shirt today. I like it.
You're going to see me in a lot of UCLA gear now that my daughter's attending there.
Congratulations. Very nice.
Yes, you're going to be sick of UCLA gear pretty soon. So.
Just going to be getting that NIL money or what?
No, I think it's going to be kind of the opposite. Somebody is paying a lot of money, but
fair enough. Is Jamal Murray going to be suspended for Game 3 of this series?
I don't think so. Based on this, the referee crew chief afterwards gets interviewed and said if they had seen it, they would have given him a technical, but not ejected him because he threw it in general frustration, not necessarily like at somebody specific, which is an interesting designation to make. But nonetheless, if that's the argument, if it's a technical and not a ejection, then it's a fine, not a suspension. I know he threw a towel a couple minutes before that in frustration too.
Yeah.
It's probably a pretty healthy fine, but it's going to be a fine.
Because I'm trying to think, like, did Curry throw a mouthpiece during the playoffs?
Yes, into the stands.
And did he did not get suspended?
No, he got fined for it.
Okay. So then I guess
you have to go to get suspended. You got to pretty much go Draymond
stomp. Kicking the groin, something like that. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Look, I mean, are we early for the funeral or is this thing over?
I don't know that we're that early because I came out of the first game thinking, I think this is kind of real. Like it's not. Sometimes a road team wins game one in a series and you're like, oh man, they shot 70% from three or some fluky thing happened and it just kind of was a one-off. I came out of game one thinking Denver's got some questions to answer. Like they're posing real questions.
Yeah.
Minnesota with that defense and with Anthony Edwards. And I came out of game two thinking, I don't know that they can answer those questions. Like especially the way they have shut down Jamal Murray. And part of that is that he's a little slowed by the calf. But part of that is, hey, he was slowed by the calf against the Lakers. They did not have the perimeter defenders to close him out. Minnesota has like, what, 2-3 guys who can do that. Like they're just all over him. Their rotations were sharp. You could feel their energy just rise through that game, couldn't you? It was like, as the defense was working, they got more intense. The referees are letting them play, and here you are.
I remember years ago talking to somebody around the NBA, and they talked about length, and it just feels like that Minnesota fits that bill. You know, you're always gonna have a shot when you have that kind of length. Obviously, there needs to be talent behind the length, but I mean, they're just so long at so many positions, and it's deflections, and it's disrupting what this Nuggets team wants to do. Let me throw one other thing out at you. For the two huge shots that he made in that Lakers series, Jamal Murray's been terrible.
Oh, he's been awful. He has truly been overwhelmed this series, hasn't he? Like just the defensive pressure, he is not able to get any separation from it, and he's making just terrible decisions under it. I mean, 3 of 18 last night shooting, just can't get the space to make a play. And that's kind of what, look, we saw the script all season long, right? All right, they play around with this. They play around with it for 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic start going to a 2-man game that nobody can stop, and they're going to roll through everything, right? And they come back on the Lakers 4 times that way. They did it all season long. Minnesota is not getting up by 10 and going, that's good. We're doing well. Like, they're pedal to the metal on this, but they're not letting up on that. They're guarding Murray, bringing the ball up. Like, he's got to get out of the pressure, bringing the ball up. They're not letting them get set. Suddenly they're starting the action way too deep into the clock to have second and third options and swing the ball. And they're just doomed. And I'm not sure that there's a good answer for it, providing Murray doesn't have some sort of miraculous healing, because like he has to be better. He has to be much better for them to have it.
I'm watching Mike Malone come out and scream at the official, which I'm amazed he didn't even get a technical for. And I'm reading the lips of Anthony Edwards, who looks at their official as Malone is screaming at him in the middle of the court going, that's a tech. And nothing gets called. It looks like Minnesota has definitely lost their, or rather, Denver's lost their nerve a little bit, and certainly lost their poise, which is kind of stunning to watch.
That's the shocking thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
this was a team that was just more composed and together than anybody in the league, and they lost it in Game 2.
Get the Nuggets you can get this series to end in 5. Right now, you can get that on FanDuel at plus 500. I kind of like it. I'm not going to lie. Would not shock me. Yeah. Nuggets in the series to end in 5 is at plus 500. Pacers and Knicks last night. Look, you cannot have a postseason that has been called as loosely as this one has, where basically, guys are getting Rick Mahorned in the paint. And then you have a screen with 14 seconds left in a 1-point game that gets called. Whether it was a foul or not, the lack of consistency is certainly the argument in that Knicks-Pacers finish.
That is absolutely the right take or sense. Like, it's just, you can't, that call was so out of place with everything that had happened in that game, and frankly, happened in the Denver game, because Minnesota's really physical, right, with their defenders. That call was just out of the previous, out of the pre-All-Star break NBA, right? Like, it was just all of a sudden, like, where did that call come from in that spot? And dude, I hate the moving. I mean, there are times you've got to call it, but a moving screen that late in a game, it's got to be somebody just sticking their arms out and Kevin McHaling somebody, right? Like, if it's not that,
boy, we're going into the way back machine with Rick Mahorn and Kevin McHale on the show.
Exactly. We've lost everybody under 30 watching your show, but like, these were things you can look up on YouTube. But to me, like, if I know people hate this, but a foul is a foul. I'm like, no, dude, final minute of a tight game, it's a little different.
Let the players decide it at that point. Exactly. I mean, you got to let the players decide. And DiVincenzo did a nice job selling it as well. I got 20 seconds left in this segment. Do you think the Knicks win this series based on what you saw in Game 1?
I was surprised by the pace of Game 1 and it being more offensive, but yes, ultimately I think the Knicks, their defense locks down, and they have the best player in the series in Jalen Brunson.
And that feels like, of all the teams in this postseason, maybe with the exception of Minnesota, they have adjusted to the way the game is being called as well as anybody, and they seem built for it as well as anybody. Stick around. Kurt Helin's going to hang out with us. We'll get him for one more segment. We will talk about the other playoff series, Victor Wembanyama's Rookie of the Year as well. The one and only Sports Wrap continues on this Tuesday. What happens in the breaks stays in the breaks. Yeah, that's what they say. Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Wasn't anything bad we were talking about. We were just talking about the dangers of Vegas for more than a day or two.
Yes.
And I might be moving there in August. So
I think living there might be different.
It is. It absolutely is.
We're not going to get into this now. I've been there enough times now that I'm relatively immune, but there's always one night.
Like, I literally spent the last few years living directly across the street from a casino here in Palm Springs. And I think I went a half a dozen times. You know what I mean? Like, after a while, it just becomes part of it's the scenery, you don't, it's weird. So I want to talk to you about Victor Wembanyama getting Rookie of the Year honors. And this is all feels like it's just part of the progression of what we know his career is going to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. He unanimous MVP. Chet Holmgren just picked the wrong year to be a rookie. Like he actually played really well this year and would have won it a lot of years. And look, Wembanyama's at not only, top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting already.
Could he have won it? Could you have made the argument for him?
I don't think so, just because the Spurs defense in general was so bad. And good when he was on, but it's hard to give the guy with the where they bottom 10 defense. I don't remember the number off the top of my head for the season and the slow start. I just don't think you could get there. Defensive Player of the Year for Wembanyama. Yeah. And also, look, here's the conversation that happens a lot around media rooms and with front office people. How many years until he's the best player in the NBA? I feel bad again, Anthony Edwards is going to be the face of the league. I think he's got the big personality and the big game. But Wembanyama's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years tops. He is.
I think 2. I think I could see it in 2.
Yeah, he's that good.
I think by his 30, I think if you give him next year one more full year, I think by his third year in the league, he's the best player in the league. I don't think that's crazy. Look at what he's doing. Look at what his second half numbers were.
Yes, ridiculous numbers. And you and I, everybody watching knows this. Your biggest leaps are between year 1 and year 2 and year 2 and year 3. Like he's going to spend a summer getting in better NBA shape and knowing what's ahead of him, working on parts of his game. What he comes back with is just going to be ridiculous.
Working on what? That's what I want to know. Working on what exactly? Let's go back to the playoff talk here. Give me an argument for the Cavaliers. Is it Porzingis not being there? What's the argument?
Donovan Mitchell gets hot. Their role players start raining threes at a ridiculous percentage. I don't think they have much of a chance in this series because of the depth of defense Boston rolls out. It's not just, Cleveland just played one of the top 3 defenses in the league. Now they get another one. But what Boston does differently from Orlando is the depth of perimeter defenders. They're going to put Jaylen Brown on Donovan Mitchell to start probably, but Derek White and Drew Holiday will get turns. Like we can just keep rotating fresh guys at you. And Porzingis being out certainly hurts their floor spacing a little on offense. But Al Horford's not a slouch. Horford's still, still
I think
solid.
he gets exposed if he has to play more minutes, though.
Yeah, I would agree. Look, it's a weak point. They've got to get through the series. I just don't think Cleveland's in a position. They're going to need Max Strus. They have to have Isaac Okoro out there for defense, and he's going to have to hit a bunch of shots. Strus, Karis LeVert off the bench. They're going to need monster games from these guys just to hang.
I just think it's nuts. I'm looking at the betting numbers. Not that I generally talk about this stuff with you, but the Celtics are to win the series. The Celtics are minus 3,500. And the Cavaliers are plus 1,200. That is as prohibitive a playoff favorite in a conference semifinal as I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think this is a terrible matchup. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a crazy number, but I think that's. I picked 5 games only because Boston never sweeps anybody, and so it'll be 5 games instead of 4. Like they always just pack it in for a game.
Conversely, by the way. The Mavericks are plus 106. The Thunder is minus 130. It's basically a pick'em series. And I got to be honest, I love the way Dallas is playing. I'm still not a believer in the Thunder as being championship ready. And I know I may get burned for it, but I'm picking the Mavericks to win this series, Kurt.
I've picked the Thunder at 7, but I think it's a coin flip of a series. They've got to shut down. Luka Doncic has to be big. Kyrie Irving's going to have to be big. But I think Dallas's defense is really the key here, right? Like their defense after the trade deadline with Lively in the middle, but also Garford, like they were just good. They were really good defensively. It's a very different attack, though. They were going to play. Here's what the thing to watch, not to get too X's and O's.
No, it's okay.
Dallas likes to play, especially with Garford and Lively. They're going to keep a guy deep. They're going to play drop. They're going to try to keep a big man in the paint and take that away. That's hard to do against Chet Holmgren. It's hard to do that against the 5-out game that Oklahoma City plays. And if Holmgren and Josh Giddey and if are hitting threes and SGA is getting, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is getting into the paint and kicking out and finding guys, it becomes really hard to stop that offense. So it's a real test for them, but it's also a real test. Hey, you got to stop Luka. Like I like Lou Dort, but they don't have anybody who matches up with Luka. Kyrie's been hot. Other guys have been hitting shots. I think this is a really tight 6-7 game series.
By the way, to go 7 games, just the series to go 7 games, not who wins, that would be plus 220 for 7 games. So if you are so inclined, there it is. Also, by the way, over under 5.5 games, it is minus 180 to the over, and plus 115 to the under. If you are
barring an injury, I don't see how this thing goes that short, though. I think these teams are really even. As much as I think you can push OKC around, I get your point. I just think this is an even series.
I do think it's a 6. I think it's a 6 or 7 game series at the very least. I know there's a lot of juice there to the over at 5.5, but I'd be shocked if it went anything less than 6 games. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. He's a gamer today. He's fighting it. He's fighting it. But you fought it. You won the battle, my friend. Congratulations.
Good. I'm going to go take some more medicine and pass out. So.
We'll see you later. Kurt Helin joining us on the show. Sammy Arnell returns. Are the Nuggets frauds? We'll ask him when we continue on Sports Wrap.
Attention families with a loved one in a nursing home. If your loved one has suffered from bed sores, falls, broken bones, dehydration, or even death, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. If you have a loved one who is injured in a nursing home, we will find out what happened. State violations are found against nursing homes every day. You have a limited time to file your claim, so don't wait. Call 800-398-5999 and speak with one of our attorneys. The call is confidential and free.
We keep things rolling along on this Tuesday edition of Sports Wrap. Thanks to Kurt Helin for dropping by. Does a great job on the NBA for NBC Sports, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Go and check them out there. Coming up in 10 minutes, something to consider. How about the WNBA already dropping the ball when it comes to their preseason coverage? You've literally had it all handed to you. You've got all the media coverage. You're the media darlings of the world because of Caitlin Clark, and you're already finding a way to screw things up. We'll get to that. Sammy Arnell returns to talk about a Denver Nuggets team, and I think it's fair to ask the question, if this goes the way it looks like it's going to go, which is T-Wolves in 5. If it goes down that way, I wonder if there's going to be some revisionist history or some looking back and saying, wow, man, did we have it all wrong? We all thought, the Nuggets, this powerhouse, we watch them beat the Lakers in 5. Could they be a repeat champion? Era of the Nuggets I wonder if it almost flips on itself just like that. And I know we're prisoner to the moment here after watching these first 2 games, Sam. But you watch a team that over these first 2 games is just being manhandled by this sort of upstart Minnesota team. And you start to ask yourself the question, was last year's championship more a product of the competition they faced, the fact that it was the Heat in the NBA Finals? Fair question to ask.
I think it's a fair question, Jason, but the answer I just keep coming back to is no, for a couple of reasons. First of all, we know, and you and I talk about this every week, it feels on the show, whenever we talk about the NBA, that it is a player-driven league. Not only is popularity of teams and such driven by players and popularity worldwide at this point, when you're talking about worldwide superstars like LeBron and Steph, but a team's success in basketball, in the NBA specifically, is so much more reliant upon individual performance of superstars being at the top on a consistent night-to-night basis. And when we talk about superstars and the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic is the greatest basketball player in the league right now. Obviously, that doesn't mean that he has the best accolades or is the most established. But at the end of the day, when we talk about talent and stats reflect this, Nikola Jokic is the best. He's a unicorn. No one can do what he does, and he's 7 feet tall.
Luka Doncic, by the way, is on line 1 for you. Just wanted to. Luka's on line 1. You're going to watch the red light beep on hold, or are you going to pick it up? Because Luka's on line 1.
The red light doesn't play defense, so.
And like Jokic plays defense, he can barely run.
He plays better defense than Luka. That's besides the point. It's beside the point. Again, when we talk about this Timberwolves team, we cannot continue to undersell them like we did all season long. This is a team that was the 1 seed.
I didn't undersell them. I think we all wondered what would happen when Karl Anthony Towns went down. But I mean, at the end of the season, when you looked at where they were without Cat, I think we were fair when it came. At least this show was.
I was going to say, I think you and I very much may have been, and I think you and I were also kind of always in the corner of, don't write this team completely off, but I think there was a large contingent of basketball media there seemed to be this generally accepted belief that, the Timberwolves were performing really well during the regular season, but as soon as, we get to May, they're going to fall apart.
Yeah,
and
the bright lights.
Exact opposite has happened. That great defense that had them as a number 1 seed for as long as it did in the regular season has only gotten better in the postseason. And the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert, who I think at this point is a 3-time defending defensive player of the year, 2-time defending.
That's what's even crazier. They won that game without Rudy Gobert last night in a rout.
But he's been so good this whole postseason.
I agree. I just think it's even more amazing, and we hadn't even brought that up yet, the fact that he didn't even play. And they won that game by a huge margin. It's nuts. It really is.
So because of all that, Jason, I just think that it's hard to completely sit here and say, oh, yeah, the Nuggets were frauds when we saw them do so many special things this year. And by the way, something else on the Timberwolves really quick, I just got to go back to, you and I talk about it all the time. No one else seems to. The Jaden McDaniels factor, that guy is a baller. I don't think we can write the Nuggets off. This is a team that went 57-25 this year. You don't do that by accident. I don't think they're the greatest world beater team, but the odds in Vegas never reflected them being that. There was definitely a narrative around them that we can't continue to push, but I think the realization that narrative may not have been as truthful as we thought it to be can be true, while we can also say that they weren't frauds.
Couple of things here. Nuggets plus 470, by the way, now to win this series against the T-Wolves. T-Wolves are minus 700. That's one thing. The other thing I'll throw out and posit is Jamal Murray, for the 2 huge shots he hit to beat the Lakers, he has shot the ball terribly in this postseason. I mean, go and look at it by the numbers. He's been horrendous shooting the basketball in this postseason. Granted, he made 2 huge shots that ultimately sent the Lakers packing, but he has not been good so far in these playoffs. And if they don't get the Jamal Murray back, that we saw throughout much of the regular season and a championship run last year, if they don't get that Jamal Murray back, this thing's going to be over. 5 games. Just telling you. 5 games.
Yeah. KCP, former Wizards, run this league. I mean, what else can I say?
Thunder and Mavericks, by the way, get going tonight. Looking forward to that. It's going to be a fun series. Mavericks plus 106. Thunder minus 130.
Thunder in 5.
Something to consider right around the corner. That's next.
Are you or a loved one dealing with an addiction? Call now to receive this free book to help fight common misconceptions about addiction and rehab. You'll learn why rehab is beneficial and necessary for the road to recovery. Tips for choosing the right facility, the costs and payment options available to you, and what to expect. This free book will guide you through the many questions you have about staying sober and finding the right help. Discover topics like a family's role in addiction and recovery, repairing relationships, and how to stay sober after rehab. The path to recovery isn't easy, but we're here to show you that there is help available and that you're not alone in this fight. Please call today and get this free book to rediscover hope and sobriety. Life is precious. Let us send this free book to show you hope does exist. Your call is confidential and there is no obligation.
800-825-1596, 800-825-1596.
Odds and ends in 10 minutes to wrap up the program. We'll get some baseball in before we say goodbye, because it's baseball season, of course. We'll find any excuse to talk about baseball. Every time we talk about baseball, another Angel gains its wings. Sammy Arnell returns.
Every time we talk about baseball, the Angels lose another game.
Oh, my God.
That was a nice little alley-oop.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Sam, something to consider. And it's sort of weekend leftovers because, man, who doesn't love some good leftovers? Throw it in the microwave. I had some leftover pizza that I ate yesterday from like Friday, and it was so good. Threw it in we actually have an air fryer oven combo. I threw it in there. Oh, it's so good.
Whoa.
What?
Wait. Back that one up. Beep, beep, beep.
What's the problem?
4-day-old.
Got it on Friday
pizza?
night, Saturday, Sunday. Monday is the third day.
Okay.
It's not that bad. We're not talking like 5-6 days when it's got No. Yeah.
What's your threshold?
That probably was it. It's maybe one more day. You gotta look. I think it's you take it out, you look at it, and if it passes the look test, the sniff test. I do that with clothes, like this. You know, like I took this out today, and I take it and I go, okay, we're good. Like if it passes the sniff test, if I go like this, whoa, then it's change.
Case by case basis.
It's case by case. Absolutely.
Totally.
I'm 46
I'm
going
a
on
5
26.
days guy. If I'm making food on Monday, or if I'm making the big pot of pasta on Monday, it's got to all be gone by Friday.
Yeah.
Can't have it after Friday.
Okay. That's fair. Let's talk about the WNBA. Some leftovers from the weekend. I mean, my God, you have literally had it handed to you if you're the WNBA right now. You've got a sport in women's basketball that is on fire right now. You've got the hottest player, arguably in all of sports, the biggest name in all of sports, and a whole bunch of other really good players that have followed her into this iteration of the WNBA. And you can't get your preseason games on? Like, you can't get them on TV where people could watch them. Did you know that I think it wound up being 2 million people watched a person live streaming a WNBA game on their phone, like doing this and watching the game. 2 million people watched that stream of a Chicago Sky game featuring Angel Reese and Camilo Cardoso, who's, by the way, dealing with a shoulder injury. Best wishes to her to get better. But, like, what are you doing if you're the WNBA? Like, what do they have? Do they have, like, real people manning these things? Like, how does that happen? Yes, Caitlin Clark's game got on, and that's great because obviously everybody wants to see Caitlin Clark. But there is a rest of the league here that still exists, and you are going to create – there's already animosity towards Caitlin Clark, right? Let's be honest about this. There's already animosity towards Caitlin Clark because there's this feeling of it's Caitlin Clark and everybody else. Things like this do not help in trying to confront or dispute that.
I hear what you're saying, Jason, but I think that we've got to bear in mind the stature of preseason games across sport. Think about Major League Baseball, watching spring training. Sure, you could watch 3 games a day of the 20 that are going on. Think about the NFL in the preseason. You can watch NFL preseason games on local network or on local network television stations that are blacked out across the rest of the country, except for one game a week that's put on the NFL network. The same goes in hockey, where you've got regional broadcasters broadcasting like 1/3 of the games, and then the bigger networks picking that up for a rebroadcast later in the week or whatever the case may be. I think that it's the nature of preseason sports. And while I don't think that it's great that the NBA isn't being that league on the forefront of, hey, let's make sure all of our games are as easily accessible as possible, because like I think you're alluding to, that's what would help the league the most right now. It probably is them dropping the ball a little bit in not saying, hey, everybody, here's Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso's first game. Why don't you all come to our shiny new website where you can watch it for free? I think that's a great idea, Jason. But in practicality, I don't think that it's necessarily out of the ordinary for the NBA to be operating the way that they are. You kind of alluded to it there. It's very expensive to put on a broadcast for a sporting game, and leagues and teams just don't want to spend that kind of money when you're talking about a preseason game that doesn't have any regular season or postseason implications.
Well, this also had to do with a scheduling conflict. Like, they thought the game was supposed to be on and then it wasn't. Like, it just seemed like a lot of miscommunication between the WNBA and their vendors and whoever was putting the game on. Real quick, on Caitlin Clark in the last minute and 13 seconds I have in this segment. To lead the Fever in scoring in 2024, minus 350. You like it? Too much juice.
Way too much juice.
First basket to be made, a 3-pointer, minus 180.
A lot of juice.
I'd do it. To average 22 points per game this season, has to play 28 regular season games, minus 160. You like it?
That's too much juice to lay on a season-long future.
Like it or hate it, to record 130 made threes this season.
What's the number?
Minus 140.
No. Give me something plus 850.
All right, here.
Something crazy.
To record 3 triple-doubles or more, 3+ triple-doubles, plus 190.
Yes. Oh, my God. To the window. Did you watch The Woman in College? Come on.
Odds and ends is right around the corner. And I've got a little bonus bet, a recall to something we were talking about with Kurt Helin that I'm going to bring up as well. And some baseball talk next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby. Before we do, this public service announcement. Make sure to subscribe to the Vodcast podcast version of the show. If you miss a show, can't DVR it on your TV, it's there for you. Subscribe. You will subscribe. Without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sammy Arnell. I've got an odd that I want to give before I get to baseball. And I just saw this when I was talking to Kurt Helin, and I said, I got to get this in with Sam before we wrap up the program. You said in the last segment you wanted something. Give me something plus 800 or better. Rah! Yeah. I've got it for you.
Okay.
The Cleveland Cavaliers plus 1,200 to win the series against the Celtics.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
How do you not sprinkle on that?
Couple of
at 1,200?
You know, the few cents that we've got left over from all the money the ponies took from us on Saturday. Why not?
1,200 in a conference semifinal against the Celtics team that has a propensity for. I mean, come on! I can't do that again, so don't ask me to.
The book.
There's going to be a meme somewhere for that.
Oh my gosh. All right. I got to settle down. The book is hanging this number for those of you curious, because the Celtics number to win the NBA championship, actually now that the Timberwolves won game 2, it's probably shorter than this. But when I checked yesterday, the number to win the NBA championship for the Celtics was like plus 105 or something like that. Something absolutely horrific. What the book obviously has to cover their own assets. That's right. I said assets because they have have to have a price that will reflect that when you're talking about a series that's 2 games out, right? Theoretically, to get the Celtics to win the finals right now would be a parlay of them to win this series, them to win the next series, and them to win the series after that. So if the book's saying that only pays out at plus 10 whatever, they have to be minus 25.
Minus 3,500 to win the series.
Right. And of course, when you're hanging a minus 3,500 on one end, actually, I'd say minus or plus 1,200, you might be getting a little shorted when you're talking about the Cavaliers.
I think you got to take the Cavs. I know everything would have to go right, but I mean, value bet? Playoffs?
It's a bet on Kristaps not playing, right?
Well, he's not.
It's a bet on a couple of things. It's a bet on Kristaps not playing at all.
Mitchell goes off. I'm just saying, man. I've seen
Mitchell
crazier.
Goes off.
I have seen crazier. I've seen crazier things.
Jaylen Brown turns into playoff Jaylen Brown of 3 years ago or whatever. Jason Tatum goes cold. Yeah, like I could see it. 12-1 is not a terrible price.
Real quick here. Astros, 7 out in the AL West, start of a 3-game series with the Yankees today, on Tuesday. Is this Houston's last stand coming up here?
It is, and those of you who watched and listened to this show before the Major League Baseball season remember me coming on this very program and saying, hey, let's not bet on the Houston Astros to win the West this year. There may be, they've got all these injury problems already, and it's only gotten worse, by the way, as the season's gone on. Seattle Mariners are looking great in that AL West. I think this is the end of the Astros, and an underrated storyline in this entire season is Alex Bregman is in a contract year and he is playing horribly. That guy is going to get massively underpaid in his next deal, which is probably going to be his last one.
By the way, Houston right now, 84.5 is their total. And that's
high.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. And they're 12-22. They're 10 under 500. That means the rest of the season they got to play 14, 15 over. They got to play 15 over.
Yeah. So it's a bet on Javier coming back and being good. It's a bet on Verlander.
I have to say this
serviceable.
I got to say this though. Of all the bad teams, their difference, their run differential is the least, which tells you they've lost a lot of close games. They're a minus 20 at 12-22.
And that's something that, folks out there who have watched Astros baseball this year will understand. Like, they're surprisingly, for the level to which that team has played, their record is not reflective of that. That team has played much worse than their record reflects, and they've gotten very lucky in certain aspects, which is why I don't think I'm completely ready to write them all the way off. They're not going to win the division. No, they could sneak into a wild card in a division that we saw have 2 playoff teams last season.
It's going to be tough because of the AL Beast. I mean, Baltimore 23-11, Yankees 23-13, Boston's 19-16, and they're not even that good. They're plus 41 run differential. Tampa Bay's 18-18. They're in 4th place.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's struggling this year, though. Tampa Bay, another team whose record is not reflective of how they've been playing, but not in the correct way. They've gotten a lot of puck luck
minus
this season.
32 run differential at 18-18. It's kind of nuts. By the way, in the remaining 20 seconds I have here, kudos to your Nationals. They are 17-17. Minus 10 run differential, but they've won 7 of 10, 17-17.
Hey, and included in there is a series win against the Dodgers and a sweep of the aforementioned Houston Astros. By the way, Garrett Cole threw off a mound this weekend. Jason, are we hyped?
I am cautiously optimistic. It's going to do it for us. Thank you to Kurt Helin. Thank you to Sammy Arnell. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Good stuff.